Welcome to part 2 of career planning on Microsoft Excel, or any spreadsheet for that matter. So we left off with some wages, and let's just work 40-hour weeks for the rest of our life and see how long we do. One thing we didn't add in here, though, was the total amount of money we've earned. So let's just insert a column here. I like to have some space there. If you click on the column heading and right-click, take the insert right there, and we want to add in our total earned. Right? And our first month, our total earned is simply this much right here. That's what we earned the first month. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now, if I do that for the second month, if I just simply copy this down, my total earned is still the same. What I need to do is take this amount and add it to this amount. And we can do that with a formula. Equals that plus that, D3 plus E2, and hit enter. So now that makes sense. That doubles it. If I click on this and double click down, hey, it hides everything because I'm just making way too much money. But hey, let's open this up and scroll down here. At the end of 30 years, I've made almost $1 million. Okay, so even though my annual salary is $107,000, look at that, 30 years later, almost $1 million. All right, so let's go back up to the top here. I want to add some other things in here. So hey, I'm like in my 20s. I'm an overachiever. I'm not going to work 40 hours a week. I want to buy a house. I want to make some money. Let's add in a couple extra columns here. So we're going to go insert. That was delete. Let's try that again with the insert one. There we go. 1, 2, 3 columns there. And we need one more. All right, let's zoom out a little bit so everything fits. There we go. All right, the first column we're going to add, this is from our PowerPoint, is right there. We've got overtime hours, overtime rate, overtime pay, total pay, and then we've got equivalent salaries still over there. All right. Right here, overtime hours, overtime rate, and total pay. All right, overtime hours, let's just throw 1 in there. We're going to work 1 hour. This is for the month, remember, not the week, so don't be confused by that. Our overtime rate is determined by law. It is 1 1/2 times your regular rate. So we'll simply go equals, that's how we start every formula, 1.5 times, which is the star, and we'll just grab our rate right there. So $32.31 per hour is my overtime rate. All right, and we can double click that down, and it's going to adjust now for each. So every time I get a raise, my overtime rate goes up as well. It's a 1 1/2 times whatever I make for my wage. Okay, my overtime pay, we're going to calculate that just like we calculated the money earned over here. My overtime pay is however many hours I worked times whatever my rate is. So if I work 1 hour, I get $32.31. Now I'm looking over here. This says hours and this says dollars. That doesn't make sense. Take that E column right there. I'm going to change that to number. There we go, 1.00. Okay. And we can go over here to our overtime pay, double click that down. And since I didn't work any hours this month, I didn't make any money these months. But if I want to work 10 hours my next month, there it is right there. If I want to work 100 hours overtime that month, okay, that's kind of ridiculous. Maybe 40 hours of overtime. Okay, and now if we go down here, if we were keeping track, you'll notice our total earned. Wait, it hasn't changed at all. We're not quite done here because my total earned only takes into account my money earned over here. We'll need to do an adjustment. So my total pay now is all of my money from my regular hours, and we're going to add that to all of my overtime pay. And we'll go like that. In fact, we might even want to retitle this and call this, instead of money earned, let's call this regular pay. And that goes with my overtime pay. So back over here to total pay, we'll double click that down. And if we take our $35.90, add $32, we get $39.13. Notice these are back to $35.90 again because I didn't work any overtime. So that seems to be checking out. Now let's go to my total pay. My total earned the first month should actually be what's here. Let's see what this is. It's actually looking all the way over here for my total pay. Let me show you something new in Excel. Deep, dramatic voice to tell you something new is coming. Actually leaned into the microphone for that one. Okay, now I could just like retype the formula, but another thing I can do, if I double click on that cell, I can grab this box right here. So I've got the hollow cursor on the edge there. I've got the move cursor. I can just drag this over here to total pay and hit enter. Now that updated, right? And this one here, it's looking over here for my regular pay, but it's adding to my total earned. So remember this part, but this one over here, we need to go to that cell, right? So it's this paycheck plus whatever I'd earned before. And now if I double click this down, if I've got some overtime pay in there, $907,000. Remember it was 906 before, right? So like, let's say for my first 10 years, no, not 10 years, first couple of years working, I'm going to work like crazy. I'm going to work 50-hour weeks. Sorry, 50-hour week, that would be 40 hours of overtime a week or a month. Let me say that again. If I work 10 hours of overtime a week, that's 40 hours of overtime a month. Let's do that for 2 years. We'll take that to 23, 24. We'll take it to 5/1 of 24. Okay, look at all this overtime pay. Now look what's happening to my total earned every month now. It's just going like crazy. So down here, if I just do that for 2 years of my working life, that adds almost $50,000 extra dollars to my total earned over my lifetime. Now, if you want to do for equivalent salary based on this, we'll just take our total earned, multiply it by 12 equals, sorry, not my total earned, my total pay. Right? This is for the month. This is total for everything. And multiply that by 12. Right? So now we went from, if we work overtime, we went from a salary of $43,000 a year to $58,000 a year. And if we go down here, now this kind of just stays the same on $107,000. But like, what if, like my last year before I retire, I wanted that crazy overtime thing again. Double click, right? My equivalent salary would be like $500,000 a year. I did 400, that's why. 40, right? My equivalent salary at the top end of the scale, $146,000 a year. Okay, to finish this one out, you pick how many overtime hours you want to work. What I'm looking for are the formulas over here. Okay, now one more thing. We're going to go to renting. Not a whole lot we can do here, right? Renting is not going to build value. We're not even going to spend any time here. We're going to go straight to buying, and I want to do one more thing for buying. All right, so what if I want to make the most of my loan, right? This is the money I have to pay. The bank says you have to pay this much every month in order to pay off your loan. What if I want to pay it off faster? So we're going to add one column here. So in between principal payment and new principal, click on that, hit insert, and make a new column. And we're going to call this an extra principal payment. Right there, extra principal payment. It's in the PowerPoint. We'll have to do a little bit of math here. So let's just say for kicks and giggles, I want to make an extra $100 payment. Nothing changed, right? Because over here in my new principal, if I double click that, it's saying, take what I owe, subtract out my principal payment, and there's the answer. But remember, we have to take this too. So we're going to take away whatever's in that cell and hit enter. So look at that. That checks out. My value just went up $100 to $400, right? If my principal payments, my extra principal is 0, that's the value I have. But if I make an extra $100 payment right there, I add $100 there. Okay, now you want to see something crazy. Let's just make this 0 again. Let's go to the end of our loan. So on 5/1/2052, it's $0. If I make a $100 payment right here, and I go to the end of my loan, I'm $355 ahead. That $100 turned into $355 at the end of my loan. Okay, let's double check this. Let's going to double click that all the way down because we have to change these formulas each time, right? So if I go here on the new principal, and it did in fact bring in my new principal payment. Okay, now let's do a little exercise here. Let's say for 1 year, I'm going to make $100 extra payment per month for 1 year. So go down here to 5/1/2023. My count is 12. Okay. $100 a month for 1 year. Let's go to the end of the loan. Look what happened. I am now $4,187 ahead of the game. I paid off my loan 4 months early, right? Think about it. That is $1,200. It's basically one payment. If I make one extra payment at the beginning of my loan, I take off 4 payments at the end of my loan. Now, what if you're like, but I don't want to do that at the beginning. I want to wait and get rich first and then pay it off. All right, fine. Let's figure this one out. We'll take this out, delete all that. We're going to go to the last 10 years of the loan now. Way down here, I got to scroll forever to get to the end of this loan. This is a 30-year loan. This is crazy sauce right here. All right, 6/1/2051. We're going to make $100 payments down here. We're going to make 12 of those at the end of the loan this time. So by doing this at the end of the loan, I knocked off 1 month of the loan, right? Which is basically I made that last loan payment early is what I did. So what I want you to do on this, when you've got this formula figured out, right? Literally the only change here is we're adding a column. We're calling it extra principal payment. And we're just fixing this formula right here, double clicking this to add this in here, right? So it's the principal minus the principal payment minus the extra principal. Make sure these values, make sure this principal is going down and your value is going up. Throw some things in there. What if you're like, man, like I'm going to double my monthly payment for a year? What happens if I do that? This is where Excel is really fun because you can just play with numbers. Like, what if I just do something crazy like that? Look where my loan pays off. Boom. 2,049. So all of these months in here, here's an easy way to do this. I'm just going to scroll down here and I'm going to look at my count box down here. 40 months early. So if I make 12 extra payments, I cut off 40 payments at the end of my loan. Isn't that crazy? Right? So play around with this. I'm going to zero this out just as a starting point. Add that column in there. See what you can do with that. And we're basically done with this for now. I mean, like we could go in here and add the value of the house going up and all sorts of things like that. But I want you to see what happens when you play with a loan like that. There you go. Have fun.